The 2024 campaign is upon us with the start of training camp. Today, John and myself will be looking at the running back unit and CJ Stroud for quarterback.
Let's get it started.
You are Locked On Texans, your daily podcast on the Houston Texans. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in, Locked On Texans listeners and viewers, to this Thursday episode of the Locked On Texans podcast, a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thank you to all of our first-time listeners and viewers. Please do us 3 favors, ABC. Subscribe, like, and comment to the Locked On Texans podcast on YouTube and wherever you listen to your podcast. And thank you to all of our everydayers returning back to listen to Cody and myself talk Texans here on this Thursday. I'm your Texans football analyst, Johnson Sports Guy Hickman. On the other side of the screen, y'all see him, Texans credentialed media member, Sports Illustrated's own Co. T. Davis. Today's episode is brought to you by who? FanDuel. Make every moment more. No more playoffs. However, this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. Just visit FanDuel.com/locked-on to get started. Y'all don't want to hear me talk no more. Cody, take it away.
Today is the official start of the 2024 campaign with training camp. That's right. Today is the very first day of Houston Texans training camp. Look, John, I'm going to try to get this recording up as early and as soon as possible because I'm pretty sure at some point on Thursday, nobody would not care what you and I have talked about because everybody's going to be all over the place looking at the highlights for the Houston Texans. Shoot, I probably wouldn't even care what we talked about by, let's say, 12 p.m. today. But look, on today's show, we're going to conclude our position breakdown, looking at every single position group entering the 2024 campaign. And today's going to be an easy show. And we're going to change it up. We're actually going to close looking at an overview of the quarterback room, i.e. CJ Stroud. What can he do to replicate the performance and the success that he had during his rookie campaign? And over the next 2 segments, we're definitely going to dive into the running back unit, which is already set up. We already know who the starter is going to be, the backup is going to be, and who your depth guys are going to be as well. But John, let's continue like we always been doing, grading the running back unit. If I have to give the Houston Texans a grade, this might surprise you, I would give them an A+. The reason why, you guys remember, if we will wind all the way back to January, the night after the Houston Texans lost to the Baltimore Ravens in the divisional round of the playoffs, and you guys have heard me say this time and time again, Coach DeMeco Ryans basically gave a layout into how he wanted to improve his roster and what positions needed to improve. And that Saturday night, inside M&T Bay Stadium in the visitors' press conference room, Coach DeMeco Ryans talked about how disappointed he was in the rushing attack and that the Houston Texans definitely needed to improve. We already know what went on after that. They allow $4 million get between them and Saquon Barkley. But in my opinion, they went out and got the next best available running back, and that was Joe Mixon. Not only did the Houston Texans have an opportunity to bring in Joe Mixon, you also had an opportunity to help Dameon Pierce in the 2023 season off on a right note. And for what I saw doing OTAs and mandatory minicamp, we're definitely going to get a better version of Dameon Pierce for this upcoming season. I cannot wait to see what he's going to do in training camp. Then you also got guys like Darrell Gumbawale. Look, whether he could be a depth purposes and third down, or if you need him as your emergency kicker, you re-sign him. And during the draft, you had an opportunity to draft Gerard Jordan in the 6th round. John, it's an A+ for me. I love how the Houston Texans revamped their offensive backfield.
I got a good B+ for him. I do. And I think that B+ can either be, an A-, or it can go down to a B-, C+.
Wow.
For a group for a group, and let me say this, I don't have the numbers right in front of me, but last year was a somewhat of a down year and a struggle year for Joe Mixon. Now, granted, I think he will be behind a much better offensive line than he's had in the NFL. That also depends on, of course, the health of this offensive line.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the question marks of what can Dameon Pierce be for the group, I think that's a valid question. Jawar Jordan, rookie, right? Can he be a productive player in year one? Will we even see him in year one for Houston? And I think that's what I'm looking at when I give this group that grade. I I like I like this group though because I think Joe Mixon is your all around back.
Mm-hmm.
If Dameon Pierce can return to the form he was playing at and that level from his rookie year, you have a very good horseback, bell cow type of back who can, and he has to do it effectively, who can pick up those tough 4 to 5 yards and not get hit in the line of scrimmage or behind the line of scrimmage as much as he did in his sophomore year. And again, I'm not going to put a lot on Jawar Jordan Dare Ongubuwale, uh, third down back. He has never really had an opportunity to get that shine here in Houston for us to really have a lot to go off of. Um, I'm really rooting for Dameon Pierce.
Mm.
This was a very easy grade for us, honestly. I mean, we don't have to go into a lot into breaking down. It's Joe Mixon, the starter, and for Dameon Pierce, what version of you will this team get? According to you, Cody, dating back to the mandatories and some of the practices Houston has had over the summer offseason, Dameon Pierce does look better.
Mm-hmm.
And again, credit to you. As a reporter covering him from his rookie year, I had an opportunity to meet and greet with him at the Senior Bowl. He comes to Houston, but things look different for Dameon Pierce last year. But to your point, not necessarily, well, not solely on the field, but off the field as well.
Mm-hmm.
D'Amico Ryans also mentioned that as well. But it does seem like he's in a much better place according to our conversations that we've had either via the show or off the screen as well. If he's that version, then you're looking at a tandem between Joe Mixon and Dameon Pierce that could potentially kind of have their way, as a running back duo. I'm not going to say Chris Johnson and Lindell White. I'm not going to do the traditional smash and dash type of running backs. But I think this can be a unit that would really hurt teams in the passing game as well. Two running backs that can be very effective once they get into open space at the second level. I love Dameon Pierce at the second level and beyond. I think that's where you get the best version of him at. And an experienced Joe Mixon who will be here for a couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
I like the tandem, but I do want to see how Joe Mixon responds to a down year from last year, and how can Dameon Pierce bounce back? I like Jawar Jordan. Do I think it'll be a problem? Cody, and I'm asking you guys as well, Cody, answer. Will it be a problem if we see Jawar Jordan play a good amount of snaps in his rookie year, considering he was a 6th-round pick?
Yes, most definitely. Gerard Jordan is one of them guys because, like, the way this running back
this is now you can find a running back. Running backs in the NFL, you can find, depending on your offense, you can find a running back in the 5th and 6th round that can help your team out now.
Yeah, but at the same time, this is a team with championship aspirations. And if Gerard Jordan is one of those guys, and I know you guys heard me say this a couple, for years now. If we see Gerard Jordan take a lot of snaps for this upcoming season, hell, even in training camp, and maybe this is a conversation we could talk about in the next segment. But if Gerard Jordan is taking a bulk load of the snap, especially at RB2, more so than Dameon Pierce, that means something is hella wrong with that situation, plain and simple. And that is no knock against Gerard Jordan. But when you go back and you take a look at Dameon Pierce, it's like, okay, can you, even if you don't replicate the success you had through your rookie season, can you give this offensive team something that they can utilize for 2024? because even with Dameon Pierce having a down year, things got so bad for him at moments he was unplayable. So that's why I look at it from a standpoint. Look, Bobby Sloyd, D'Amico Ryans, we've seen it, we experienced. They want to, regardless of who was taking snaps for them, whether it was Motor, whether it was Saquon, whether it's Joe Mixon, like they want to run a 2 running back system, like majority of teams in the NFL these days. But that RB number 2 has to be Dameon Pierce. If it's not, and especially if it's Gerard Jordan, that means something went wrong, whether in training camp, preseason, or at some point in the regular season.
Yeah. I will say this. When we look at the depth chart and the starters right now at running back, of course, Joe Mixon, Dameon Pierce, where they both need to improve is when Houston needs a first down in between 1 to 3 yards. Those two guys have to be better than where they were last year. I'm looking at Joe Mixon's splits on yards to go, 2.4 last year when they needed 3 yards. Dameon Pierce last year, 0.4. So it's going to be that's what I want to see for that tandem to be considered better than the B minus that I gave them. Right, it's like the small things, because if you're able to be trustworthy on 3rd and short, where you can pick that up, you know what that opens up for an offense? Bootlegs, man. And I don't have the numbers in front of me right now, but CJ Stroud and this offense, they were very effective and impactful on bootleg plays, bootleg rollouts, right? So that's what I'm looking at for me to consider them to be a much better tandem. Like right now, I'm looking at Dameon Pierce, 3rd and between 1 to 3 yards, 0.4 yards per carry. That's not good. Joe Mixon, same thing. When I look at 3rd and 1 to 3, 1.9. Short yardage has to be an area of improvement for those 2 running backs. And I think when I look at this offense, aside from the wide receivers, because I think they're going to be a product of play calling, but when I look at this offense, I do put a lot on the offensive line, the running back, and the tight ends, because if they do their job effectively, that allows them, and this is my whole thing, my whole theme for the offseason, that allows them, in my opinion, to really open up a playbook to where even on 3rd and 2nd, I could run the ball, I can RPO, I can bootleg it, I can flat out go out there and 22 personnel, 12 personnel. I could do a lot, because at what point can an opposing defense stop what we're doing? And I think that if I put it on anybody who I want to give that that responsibility to be that short yardage guy, that's Dameon Pierce. And I want to see him be that guy. I think if he's that guy, you're looking at a different offense. Just like if the offensive line is healthy. Just like if the tight end group can be productive and help with blocking. If those small things happen, you are looking at a dangerous offense, guys. On the other side of the break, we're definitely going to be talking about the biggest storylines at the running back position. Are there really any big storylines? Well, we'll dive into that. But one thing I definitely want to let you guys know about before we talk more of the running back group is LinkedIn. When you guys are hiring for your small business, and especially in today's time where everybody has a side, quote unquote, hustle, side business going on, large or small, you definitely want to make sure you find the quality professionals that are right for the role. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the right professionals for your team faster and for free, because they have the better tools to do that. LinkedIn isn't just another job board. Why do I say that? Because LinkedIn helps you find and hire professionals that you can't find anywhere else, guys. Even those who are not actively searching for a new job. I'm going to say that again. I'm looking at the screen. Even those that are not actively searching for a new job, they come in clutch for you guys. And at any given month, over 70% of LinkedIn users don't visit other leading job sites. So if you're not looking on LinkedIn, you're looking in the wrong place. And on LinkedIn, 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. Hire professionals like a professional on LinkedIn. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonnfl. That's linkedin.com/lockedonnfl to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Welcome back in, Locked On Texans listeners and viewers. Training camp is later today. All of the hype and excitement. The Hall of Fame game is coming up soon. Houston and Chicago kicks off the NFL season. I'm not like one of those guys that sit back and say, you know what, the preseason don't matter.
It matters. It definitely matters.
It matters, especially.
I don't understand that at all. Like, why would you want, regardless of sport or whatever, why would you want the very first time you touch the field being week 1 of the regular season when you've been off for like 6 to 8 months? That doesn't make sense.
Why wouldn't you want to crack open a beer and talk sports at any given moment?
Yeah, so dumb.
And the NFL is the best time to do that. I don't care if it's a Hall of Fame game. I don't care if it's the first or the second or third or fourth preseason game for Houston. I'm going to watch. Of course, we have to, but just being around football again is an amazing feeling. And I think this year for Houston specifically because of the amount of players. They just re-signed Jerry Hughes. They just brought in Cephas, the receiver that played for Detroit. He was out of the league due to gambling, but forget his first name, so forgive me, guys. Very unprofessional of me. But Cephas, he's a Houston Texan now. They're working out, guys. Why this and kicking off with Hall of Fame, that game, the preseason game, why this offseason is so important because the top guys are the top guys. I have no worry about the top guys. And we can name them off. CJ, LT, Titus Howard, Will Anderson, Daniil Hunter, Denico. We can get Nico, who just got paid, Stephon, who Houston just traded for. We can name all the top guys.
All the names in the top guys? All of names?
Well, I mean, we know
about 2-3 years ago. No, I'm saying 2-3 years ago, we didn't have nobody at the top.
It wasn't no names.
Except for Larry Matosa.
It was Chad Hansen, Tyrod. We had Brandon Cooks. Don't forget about
Brandon Cooks. Brandon, he was the only him and LT and Titus Howard.
David Johnson was a top guy.
David Johnson was never a top guy.
All Pro Pharaoh was a top guy.
Yeah, for 2 games.
He was a top guy. But I think this team, why they need 4 games, they got so many pieces and players, and depth matters, right? Looking at all positions, wide receiver, linebacker, D-line, cornerback, offensive line, who's going to be a swing tackle, right? The whole 9. But I think when you get to the running back groups, I do think it reminds you they have nearly $20 million in salary cap that they can play around with. I do think Houston is going to keep their eyes open to make upgrades, whether it be on the DB side, whether it be a linebacker, whether it be a D tackle. But the running back group, I think, is a group where we cannot necessarily skip over it, Cody. I'm going to give it to you really quick, but I think for me, my biggest storyline is, does Houston stick with Dameon Pierce? Is there a running back that may fall on the market, due to being cut or however the situation may happen, that Houston looks and say, well, he's a better fit for what we're trying to accomplish here in Houston than DP? I think that's the biggest storyline for me. Does he make the roster, or is he going to be regulated to a special team return man, which is a good role for him, whether he's getting running back snaps or not? And does Houston go outside of the building to find another running back?
I don't even think Houston will have to go outside the building to find another running back. I'm looking at Darrell Gumbawale. And the reason why I'm looking at him is because...
Shout out to his sister, by the way, Enrique.
Oh, my God.
Baller.
If the Dallas Wings were healthy, they would definitely be at the top of the league, probably right behind the Aces. But I know that's another topic in another league for another day. But, man, that girl is good. But the one thing I've always loved about Dario Gumbuwale, whenever his number is called, he's going to perform. Whether you need him in third down situations, whether you need him to come out the backfield and be a pass catcher, or whether you need him to just go out there and be an extra blocker, Dario Gumbuwale, or if you need him to kick a field goal that end up winning you a game, Dario Gumbuwale is always going to rise up to the occasion. And the one thing that always fascinated me the most about Dare is the fact that I always wonder why the Houston Texans never really gave him a prominent role to be this team backup running back. I go all the way back to the first time we saw him during the 2022 campaign. There was moments where he was this team second best running back. The one thing that I want to consider is this. I'm looking at him in training camp and thinking to myself, look, I think Gerard Jordan is going to be a really good player in this league, but I don't see him having a chance to showcase what he can do this year because the stakes for the Houston Texans in 2024 are extremely high. And I understand Coach D'Amico Ryans is going to put all of the good players on the field, all of the players who are going to show out in training camp. I understand that, John. But I do not see a situation where that's going to be Gerard Jordan. And if Dameon Pierce isn't getting it done, or if Dameon Pierce is getting more snaps on special teams versus, playing in the backfield, practicing alongside CJ Davis Miller and all the rest of these guys, I can definitely see them utilizing Dario Gumbuwale more. And I think he's going to be the guy to make things interesting to see who is definitely going to take the helm as RB2.
For Dare, some guys are just kind of regulated to the role that they are in. And that sounds really bad, right? Like that sounds bad. But for Dare, he's played over 60% of the special team snaps his 2 years in Houston. Last year, he only played in 13% of the offensive snaps. The year before, 17% of the offensive snaps. The reality is, and this is funny because I joke with Cody about this all the time, so quick to put somebody on a practice squad, but special teams. But the reality is, Dare is a special teamer.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought of all years, Houston should have found a way to give him an opportunity. It was the 2022 year, where he had more opportunities to showcase it. Last year, I think because of the emergence of Devin Singletary and combining that with why are we running the ball at this point? We need to go ahead and live and die by CJ. That also took away any opportunities that could have possibly came about. But I like Dare. I do think if I'm looking at a storyline, does the rookie overtake Dare on this depth chart? By the way, looking at rookie running backs in NFL history for teams that won the Super Bowl, Timmy Smith for Washington, Super Bowl 22, Jamal Lewis for the Ravens, Corey Clement for the Eagles, Sony Michel for the Patriots. I remember that one. So I say that because when I look at Gerard Jordan, yes, he's a rookie. Yes, he's a sixth rounder. I think Clements was undrafted. We saw this team last year coach up Khalil Davis. If you can find them, if you can coach them, and if they can perform, and if somebody else ain't performing, we've seen this team put guys out there on the field. So I'm not necessarily too worried about Gerard Jordan getting playing time. And I do think that he has an edge without even playing a snap. So I know that sounds crazy, but I think he has an edge over Dare. Why? This regime drafted him. This coaching staff drafted him. They inherited Dare, and there may be some things on film that they like from Gerard Jordan that they want to see that they don't believe Dare can give them. I'm not saying that's the case. That's just my speculation. No inside information. But I think when it all boils down, we're going to be looking at the running back group, and we're going to be saying Gerard Jordan, he may be more impactful than what we may have given him credit for. And in the past, we've seen Super Bowl teams have some good luck by rookie running backs. We all love sports, right? That's why you're here. That's why we're talking. I never want them to stop. However, we are getting fewer games. It won't last always, right? But the sports are not necessarily sporting like we all want them to. Don't worry. FanDuel is letting us keep the sports alive and going whenever we want. All we have to do is open the app and dream up big bets anytime we're in the mood. This summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day all summer long. Head on over to FanDuel.com and start making the most out of your summer. FanDuel is the official sports betting partner of the NFL.
Welcome back in, ladies and gentlemen, to this Thursday installment of Locked On Texans. We looked at every single position, but we decided to combine running back and quarterbacks because what is there to say about the quarterback position? Yeah. I mean, if you want to grade it beyond an A+, biggest storyline, can CJ Stroud get better than where he was in his rookie season? But what I will say is this, John. How can CJ Stroud get better than what we saw during his rookie campaign? That's the only question in the biggest storyline when you take a look at this quarterback room. And then another storyline we could definitely keep an eye on, how are they going to utilize the backup quarterback role conversation you and I had a couple of weeks ago on this show. I remember, as we all know, last year we thought for sure it was going to be Davis Mills. Then when CJ Stroud got hurt, they flipped things up on us and decided to go with Case Keenum. And then come to find out, that was the best situation. Case Keenum went 1-1 as the starting quarterback for the Texans, and that one game helped them get to the playoffs. So, that's another storyline that you're looking at. But of course, Houston Texans 2024 quarterback, everything revolves around the guy that went number 7.
Yeah, it does, man. I think for me personally, for CJ, it's just getting better.
But what is getting better? Not saying like he a demigod or something, but it's just like for me, I'm sorry to cut you off, but like for me, I would say just use his athleticism just a little bit more.
That's where
there was moments where I felt like he could have used his legs to extend plays, and I'm like, maybe that's the one area I could say I want to see more from CJ in year 2. That's it.
Yeah. No, that's one of them, and I think that does help out the offense. But I also would like to see CJ just be consistent with getting the ball out quicker throughout 17 games. I do think that goes hand in hand with the play call and CJ, but we saw some moments last year where back was against the wall type of play and he's trying to make something shake. Sometimes you can live by it. Sometimes you'll die by it. And of course, you want to see him get all of the nuances correct, right? Terminology and getting on the same page with all of his receivers and weapons and leadership. But those are things that I don't worry about. Those are things I don't fret about. But I would like to see him just be a little bit more consistent with making sure that if it's pressure, you got to make it to the next down. This team needs you, and more importantly, they don't need the backup quarterbacks to play a good amount of snaps. I am, though, we talk about entering training camp. I am very curious because I said this on 790 on the Next Up show with Stan, my man Stan. I said that I think CJ Stroud is better than Deshaun Watson. Kill me if you want. I'm okay with that.
No, they ain't gonna kill you because everybody is in love with selling. I just think, I'm not about to go into this.
Well, let me say this. I am anticipating CJ Stroud's ability to pivot in year 2. Now that teams, tougher schedule, and teams also have 15 games worth of film on them to look at some of the tendencies that maybe we're not picking up on. So I am interested to see how he pivots around that, the difficulty of going into year 2, avoiding a sophomore slump. and how can he work with Coach Slow from the sideline to help him with that? And that's down to the smallest of things of adjusting pass protection. Later today, though, Cody will be out there this Thursday. I'll be out there tomorrow for Friday. Later today, we'll start seeing some of the works, the smaller things in the works to see how he can come back in the year 2 to be the quarterback that I personally believe he is.
I do too. I personally would like to hold off saying whether 7 is better than 4. But to be honest with you, John, it's always going to be hard to tell because 4 ain't never. Yeah, I say it ain't. 4 ain't never had a good situation like this. All he had was that's it.
And also with that, because I'm looking at this as well. Deshaun Watson, and we probably should go, but Deshaun Watson, I think, as much as he probably loved Bill O'Brien, Deshaun Watson was held back by B.O.B.
Yes.
And I do take that into account when I look at CJ and Bobby Slowick and Gerard Johnson in year 2 with the weapons he's having, they've added to this team, and the offensive line, and the tight ends. So I am taking all of that into account. That's going to be a conversation that we must revisit.
I say we could revisit this year and next year. Would be fair.
Yeah.
Because after that, then,
I'll tell you this, though. Houston gets to an AFC conference game.
Oh, it's over. It's definitely over. Man, put it like that. There is, CJ doesn't have much to prove before he take that title. Yeah. But, I mean, this year and next year, that conversation
your feet will help his game out.
Yeah, but at the same time, talking about using his athleticism, I don't want him to overuse his athleticism like 4 used to do. And then that's part of the reason why they used to get caught up in those situations. But I don't think we're going to have to worry about that with 7.
I don't think so either, man. But thank y'all for watching today's episode. Please subscribe, like, and comment to the Locked On Texans podcast on YouTube and wherever you listen to your podcast. Follow me on Twitter at John_Hickman12.
And as always, I'm your host, Cody M. Davis. Please remember to follow me on Twitter at CodyDavis_24. Once again, that's Cody, COTYDAVIS_24. Until next time, ladies and gentlemen, peace.